Hey everybody, Invisiblekatana here doing my spoiler-free review for Thor Ragnarok. If you guys want to skip right over this and go straight to my spoiler discussion, I will have a link in the description. If you want to watch this as well as my spoiler discussion, it will also be one of the in-screen videos. So to get right into it, totally spoiler-free. The only stuff I'm going to reference are super minor things and stuff that was shown off in the trailer. So you won't get like any random things that'll reveal like any sort of information, which somebody tried to do to me yesterday. I put a picture up of like a Thor figure I had on Instagram. The only comment was somebody just being like, this happened and that happened. Fortunately, I read like the first thing and I was like, oh, they're trying to be a douchebag. So fortunately, the movie didn't get spoiled. It was like one minor thing. But going into this, I was definitely excited. I was like, all right, it's the third Thor movie. Thor, I like as a character. The movies, I think they're pretty cool. The first one I like more than the second. I think that's kind of the consensus, is that the second one wasn't really that great. And I think they fixed all that. I think pretty much everything that was off about the second movie, they switched, and then they kind of added some stuff, you know, kind of going back to some of the elements of the first movie as far as, especially the comedy element. I don't remember the second movie being funny outside of Jane's assistant. Everything else was super serious. And this one was definitely, I would say, you know, comedy-wise, it was definitely written to be like the funniest of the three, and that was, you know, that as well as the visual element, those were definitely the two biggest things where everyone was like, all right, this is like a huge change for Thor's, you know, kind of trilogy, and they're, you know, seemingly taking some elements from Guardians of the Galaxy, you know, kind of utilizing music for the trailer, having like these insane trippy visuals, and, you know, showing it off as an action comedy film, which the other Thor movies weren't really that way. They were definitely more dramatic. The first one, like I said, I would say was meant to be a bit funnier just because of the actual, you know, lesson and story Thor was going through. And then the second one, not so much. It was definitely dramatic and people dying and all this other stuff. But this one I thought was well done. I definitely think they utilized the visual stuff. I would say the visuals are probably the best out of like any Marvel movie that we've had, period. I mean, even with Guardians of the Galaxy, I mean, going through the first and second film, this one just had some moments, specifically the action sequences, because I thought it was going to be, like, you know, the whole movie, definitely vibrant stuff. That's something that I really appreciated, because it's like, oh, we have, you know, Thor on Asgard, or just any scene on Asgard is like, oh, it's vibrant, and there's gold, and, you know, there's, you know, all this stuff, and all the, you know, mystical looking things, and it looks nice. And then it would be like the other half of that would be Earth. You know, the first movie was just, they were basically in like a little desert town, and then the second movie, it was just really dark. Really, I felt like most of that movie when they were on Earth, it was always like rainy or cloudy. But it was like, yeah, that's how those movies are. It's like, you know, the Asgard stuff looks amazing, and you have like the Rainbow Bridge and stuff, and like everything just looks cool, and then you go to Earth, and it's like, oh, it's just Earth. It just looks like Earth, and they don't go to like any amazing looking places. In this movie, you have Asgard, which looks great, and then the other planet that they're on, which is Asgard, looks great too. It's a trash planet, I will tell you that. That has like no actual bearing on the story, but I didn't realize that from the trailer. But it's like a legitimate like trash planet when they first get there. Like where they're at is just like trash. But it's vibrant. I was like, it's vibrant trash. It looks really interesting. Everything is like very vibrant colors. And I was like, oh, this is really cool. It's nice to see that. The fight sequences are definitely some of the best that they've ever had in like Marvel movies visually. I think the action is really good too, but it's definitely like, you see more than you, like, I would say realize. I guess that's the best way to put it. Is like, okay, I'm looking at this and I'm like, this is amazing, and I'm paying more attention to like the excess kind of CG stuff, which all look great, but I was paying a bit more attention to that and like, how good is the combat looking, because I'm like a big martial arts fan. So normally I look at that sort of thing, and this was kind of like a good blend of both, where it's like the combat is good, but the visuals accompanying it, even if it's like a simple move, some of the visuals in this, especially during the end fight when everybody's fighting, it gets really insane. So the visuals are absolutely phenomenal. The comedy's good. I wouldn't say it's perfect though. There are definitely some parts, literally in the beginning of the film, like the first sort of, maybe not the first joke, it was like the second or third joke that they had. I was like, oh, that wasn't funny to me, like at all. And I was a little bit worried, but then after that I was like, okay, you know, hit and miss. For the most part, definitely hit. There are just a couple jokes where I was like, yeah, okay, you know, that one wasn't as funny to me, or it just seemed like there were too many, and it was like, you know, if they just took out the ones that didn't make me laugh, it would be better, you know, just keep some moments going. But I never felt like it took away from the serious moment. I felt like they all fit. I just didn't think they were all funny, and that's the thing about it. I was like, all right, if they didn't fit at all, it would just be stupid. But it was like, all right, they at least fit in the situation where it happened. Just not every single joke, you know, really landed for me, but for the most part, they definitely did. So I enjoyed the added comedy. Definitely love the visuals for this. They're absolutely fantastic. Like a great example is one of the scenes from the trailer where Hela is fighting against all the Valkyrie, and they're like coming down on a bunch of Pegasi, I guess. I don't know the plural of Pegasus, but they're flying down, and it's a great looking sequence, and it's even better when you see like the whole thing. That's a lot of it is in the trailer, unfortunately. But excuse me, definitely looks great. Like it was a great sequence. Just watching all that stuff kind of play out. So I was like, that looks really cool. Like I said, the end fight sequence, absolutely amazing the way they did that. But visuals were good, comedy was good. The story itself, definitely pretty cool. Hela is a great villain. The only thing I wish is that I kind of wish she was in it a little bit more. That's an odd thing to say because she is the main villain, but I felt like the way the story was kind of handled, she's not as big of a villain as you might expect. Or she's not as prominent, I think is the best way to put it. She's definitely like a huge, insane threat, but she's not like very prominent. So I was like, oh, that kind of sucks because she's not really like there as much as I would like her to be. She definitely reveals certain elements. There's one part where they make a really great reference to basically the cinematic universe as a whole, because there was a big question based on, I think it was from the first Thor movie. I can't remember if it was the first or second one, but they make a reference to that. It was like a big question that people always had. It was like a theory, and they kind of answered the question in this movie. So I was like, oh, that's kind of cool because I knew why they did that. But it was cool. I really love what they did with her character and some of the things that, especially the way they played her story, I thought was well done, because her character is different than in the comics. Like her lineage and all that stuff is actually a bit different. But well, not her lineage, but the exact origins. This specific origin is a bit different, and the way they kind of go about that, very simple, makes a lot of sense. And then as she's going through, we learn a bit of information about Odin and Asgard and Asgardians as a whole, and I thought that was really cool. That was one of my favorite parts about the whole movie, is some of the stuff where she's like, oh, I'm this person, and this is some of the stuff that I know that you guys may not know, or just may have forgotten, or some stuff that may or may not have even been hidden from people. And she was great for that. And it didn't feel like it was like, oh, here's more exposition or anything. It was like, oh, this is actually kind of cool. It was just like random cool stuff to learn. And she was a great villain. Like I said, I kind of wish she was in it a bit more. Like, that's the oddest thing about it. But she was a great villain. Like her, going to Asgard was absolutely great. All her fight sequences were really cool. Like, she was just like on top. And that was all there was to it. It was just like, even the way they ended, with her, I thought it was really well done. I was like, that's actually kind of cool, because it wasn't just, the normal thing where it's like, let's do this or let's do that and defeat the villain. It was like, sometimes you gotta go outside, think outside the box. So I thought it was actually really cool. Like, she was just a hardcore villain that wasn't really taking any crap. It was like, I'm here to take over, and that's pretty much it. And no one was really doing much against her. So definitely a great villain. Of course, you have Hulk in this movie, so Hulk and Thor, teaming up was definitely fun. Getting to see Bruce in there was definitely cool as well, and how that kind of plays into the story was cool. Valkyrie as a character, I actually thought was pretty awesome, so I like her character in the film. We'll love, hopefully she'll be in some of the future films, but thought that was pretty cool. Loki was good in this movie as well. Some of the questions that they answered come in pretty early on, because there's a big thing that I was wondering with, the way the last movie ended. I was like, all right, well, how's this movie gonna kind of play out? What's the pacing gonna be? And it was cool. They definitely kind of kicked things off super early. But I definitely liked the film. Ultimately, I would definitely recommend it. I would say it's definitely worth seeing. Like, you can go pay kind of full price for it. I would definitely say it's worth it. Visually alone, I think they just did such a phenomenal job there. But I like the story to it. As it gets towards the end, I think certain things start to build up, and then other things start to kind of dissipate, because it's like, kind of where things are headed towards the end of the film. It's like every other scene will be like, okay, this kind of feels unnecessary, or maybe something just seemed a little too long. But it was like very minor, and it was like only towards like the end, because I know it's like, all right, we're now getting to the final battle. And it's at sometimes, because this movie was fairly long. It was over 2 hours, probably almost 2.5, or not 2.5. It was almost 2 hours. But yeah, going into it, it was like, all right, we know, after a while, you know what you're about to get, and you're like, I'm kind of just waiting to get there. And some of the stuff, it would be like jokes. Some would land, some wouldn't. It's like, oh, that extra couple of seconds was just like, kind of wasted to me. But it never really like deterred me from watching the film. It was still like, this is really cool, and I can't wait to see, what happens with these characters together, going up against the villain, just figuring out how to work together, because you got Hulk, sometimes that has a certain element to it. So definitely love the way they handled the characters. Looking forward to seeing what they do with Hulk in the future, if they're going to keep this version of Hulk. I love seeing it, because one of my favorite things to see is when characters, or when writers actually utilize the sort of talking Hulk perspective. I think that's actually cool. I don't know what that means. I mean, they don't have the license anyway, but maybe a part of them doing that so early is the fact that, you know, we aren't going to get a solo Hulk movie for who knows how long because of like all the licensing agreements. He can't have his own thing. So that's kind of why we also get Planet Hulk here. So I was like, okay, you know, that's why they had to do that. And he's not nearly as involved with the planet as he is in his original story. It's like, it's totally different. So if you watch this, this has nothing to do with Planet Hulk. He has the costume, and there's some characters in here that relate to Planet Hulk, but that is it. Like, just watch the animated movie. It's actually really great. And then, like, there you go. That's your official Planet Hulk story, because this is just like, it's him in the Planet Hulk costume, and he's technically on the planet. That is the only connection, and like 2 other characters, and that is seriously the only connection to the actual like Planet Hulk storyline. Otherwise, it's nothing. It's nothing like Planet Hulk. But it was still cool to see him. Great fight sequence when they actually do first see each other and they fight. Great scene. Love that. It was absolutely great. Hulk fighting in general was cool. Thor fighting was actually really awesome. Like there's the first fight scene that he's in, he does some stuff that he doesn't really do very often. Like throughout the whole movie, I would say he has to use a lot of techniques that we don't see Thor use very often, especially considering, you know, when he's fighting, it's typically just, you know, boom, he throws it and he's knocking everybody away super far because they can take, you know, a bunch of hits and he just launches them back. And this time it was a lot of stuff where it's like, okay, he's fighting a bunch of people, or he's fighting the Hulk, so he has to utilize different techniques, or he might not have his hammer, which obviously that's not a spoiler, that's in the trailer. So there's a lot of elements to that where I was like, okay, I like this because it's not just, here's Thor using his hammer. It's like, here's Thor using his hammer, here's Thor using, you know, like hand-to-hand combat, here's Thor utilizing, like his powers outside of the hammer and stuff like that, which, once again, that's in the trailer, so it's not a spoiler. You know, they do that like a little bit in there. But I thought it was really cool. I was like, alright, I like seeing him fight in these different ways. We actually get to see Loki fight a little bit. They actually use weapons, which was like in the very first trailer. I was like, okay, yeah, they definitely do some cool stuff here. We have more of the Thor-Loki dynamic, just a little bit. It doesn't really, it's not nearly as deep as it is in the first 2 movies. It's definitely like on the back burner in this, but it's still, you know, it still pops up because they're brothers, so it has to pop up. It's, you know, them dealing with stuff. So I like the way they handled it for sure. The action was good. I thought the comedy was good. The visuals were absolutely stunning. I think all the actors did really well. I don't know, you know, what they're going to be doing with, like I said, the characters that they introduced, because they introduced quite a few people in this, and not everybody dies. You know, it's like they introduced some characters where I'm like, I feel like if they want to, they could bring these people back. They could also not do that. So I'm like, I don't know exactly where we're headed, because of course we have Infinity War, but I never really thought about the fact that this movie is going to add new characters. And, you know, I wasn't thinking like, oh, everyone's going to die, but it just never occurred to me like, well, are they going to be, you know, mentioned or referenced or in Infinity War maybe, in passing or something like that. So it definitely made me wonder how some of these characters might factor into future installments within the Marvel Universe. So I thought that was cool. I was like, alright, I'm actually excited to see these characters because I thought everyone that they added was actually cool. So really enjoyed this movie, of course. We'll love to know what you guys thought about it. Naturally, with this being my spoiler-free review, we'll love it if you put spoiler tags, or, you know, like I said early on, if you just want to save all your comments and put them in my spoiler discussion, you can do that. But would love to know what you guys thought about this and kind of where we're headed and what this installment did for you as far as the Thor trilogy, as well as just the entire Marvel Cinematic Universe. Of course, every time a new movie comes out, it's like, you know, where does this new, you know, Cinematic Universe movie rank within the entire Cinematic Universe? For me, I would probably put it, let's see, I would still go with probably the 2 Captain America movies is probably like some of my top 2. Definitely Winter Soldier is probably still my number 1, just because that's just a great freaking movie. Civil War, of course, is really cool. That's, you know, Avengers 2.5. So I still love both of those. Guardians of the Galaxy, I would say, is really good. We'll see. Oh, I guess technically Spider-Man does count. I enjoyed Spider-Man. I'm not going to go through like my whole ranking, but I would say this one is definitely up there. I would say I like it more than the first 2 films. Certainly more than the last one, because the last one was just like a bunch of lovey-dovey stuff, and this had none of that. It was just like, here's what's happening. It's traumatic, crazy badass villain. Let's fight, and plus Hulk. So it was simple, and it was just simple, and they just went through doing what they needed to do. There wasn't all this love interest stuff. It was just like, here's the journey, and that was it. So I really enjoyed that. I definitely like that element of it, because a lot of pretty much all the cinematic movies at this point, the main character will have a love interest. You have Guardians of the Galaxy, where you have 2 characters who may or may not end up getting together. You have Captain America and how that's kind of shifted throughout the films, and pretty much every other film there's somebody who likes somebody else. Like, that's just how it is. This is one of the few movies where it's just like, yeah, we don't have time for any love interest. Let's just get some people fighting and some cool visuals. So I like it for that. Like I said, though, would love to know what you guys thought about the film. So please put your comments down in the comment section below. And of course, thanks for watching.